Okay, welcome back again. And so as to not lose any momentum, let's keep going. Yay. Okay. This is fun and I enjoy it. I hope you do too. Life is a journey. You've got to enjoy it. So the baselines that we've already mentioned, there are three: schedule baseline, cost baseline, scope baseline. Those are individual baselines. Considered collectively, we call that the PMB. And so the performance measurement baseline. And so your job in planning is to define these baselines and get them signed off. They are, if there are any changes to them, they have to be approved through integrated change control. In fact, any change to any part of the project management plan, formally, it has to go through integrated change control. The baseline is this fixed, the schedule baseline is this fixed schedule, and that's the standard of performance. So again, we have these three baselines that if we have to adjust, we are going to through integrated change control. Because notice on the black right here, we are always tailoring and making trade-offs, right? If I change the schedule, say I lengthen it, I'm going to need more cost. And I probably lengthened it based on new scope. If I cut scope, I can cut schedule. That's going to cut costs, right? But what have I done to, notice at the top, not really part of a triangle, but always considered, what have I done to quality, right? And always doing this with an approved change board, which some of your key stakeholders will sit on. Now, remember a cost baseline is unique because it is in its definition, a time-phased budget. That's the term you'll see often. The schedule baseline, the definition there is the approved version of the schedule model. And a scope baseline, by definition, is the approved version of three things: the scope statement, the work breakdown structure, and the work breakdown structure dictionary. These three definitions must be memorized. Those are easy quiz and test questions. I mentioned already the performance measurement baseline. It's the collective, how we look at the baselines as a single entity of these otherwise three individual components, right, when fully integrated. Now, the scope statement is driving so much of the work we do. And so scope is this detailed set of deliverables or features that we want. So we define the objectives, which are those features, and then we'll define the requirements, ending up with the scope baseline. The scope statement is the first part of the scope baseline. Remember, the scope baseline we just defined had three parts: the scope statement, the work breakdown structure that results from it, and the work breakdown structure dictionary, which always goes with the work breakdown structure. Okay, so it's a narrative statement, and you always want to have in this narrative statement items I've listed here: the product scope. Tell me what the product is going to look like after the project even. The project scope, which will define the deliverable, what is success, list assumptions and constraints, and I always list what is not in the project, right? I once had a project with called Electronic Flight Bag, and it was a aircrew publications on a tablet, and people wanted to do email, but I had said email and it will not be part of this tablet, because I knew that invited vulnerabilities, malware, for example, and I didn't want that malware distorting aircrew approach and departure plates. So I said it was not. You would never use this tablet. We had it locked out for email. Very useful. The work breakdown structure. So in addition to the scope statement, part of the scope baseline is also the work breakdown structure and the dictionary. On the right-hand side, this is a picture of a work breakdown structure. This is largely the scope statement up top, and then key work packages on level 2, and the work packages on level 3. A work package is the lowest level. This is a test question. The lowest level of a work breakdown structure is called the work package. And you can see that the work breakdown structure in part B associated with the dictionary in part C, and when tied to part A, the scope statement, all of these 3, A, B, and C, create the scope baseline. So the WBS with its dictionary completes the scope baseline as long as your scope statement was done first. On the left, I list some interesting tidbits about the work breakdown structure. You can see how valuable it is to the overall project. So it is the foundation of every project. It's created by the team and other stakeholders, right? There are no dependencies shown on this work breakdown structure. I can't tell on the horizontal what depends on what. That's what your schedule is about. Your schedule will define dependencies. Here, I'm just breaking down the work or decomposing it from level 1 to level 3. Now, if it's not in the work breakdown structure, we say it is not in your project. That helps stop scope creep. If it's not in my work breakdown structure, meaning it doesn't tie up to this delivering the scope statement, which are my objectives, then it is not in the project, right? When do you stop decomposing? Well, here are some rules of thumb. Another way to say rules of thumb is the term heuristic. It's a heuristic. These are rules of thumb. If I can complete the package quickly, I'm probably done breaking it down. If it has to be outsourced through procurement, I'm done breaking it down. If it has one owner in that process, one owner of the work package, then I'm done. That sort of thing. Okay, under the work breakdown structure, when I further decompose it, remember the work package is the lowest level of the work breakdown structure, but I will keep decomposing it. Now I'm into the schedule. I'm no longer into scope. I'm not adding new scope. I am breaking down the work packages into activities, and activities are what create my schedule. So I'll end up with an activity list, and with the activity list come activity attributes. These are examples of activity attributes. This box here is an activity. It's also called a node. We will talk about a node later. So this is a node. It's one activity, activity A, and it will have a list of attributes. Kind of like a work breakdown structure has a dictionary with all the details. Well, an activity list, or this activity, has attributes. There's a comparison there, a similarity. Now, we want to talk quality. Quality is very important, defined by the stakeholders. So you see again on the right the iron triangle, and stakeholders in the middle of the triangle, and at the top is quality. Stakeholders are defining all of this for you, right? And so you want to capture it. A key to quality management is this concept called continuous process improvement. That's a philosophy in project management. On an exam, if you're down to 2 options and one is continuous process improvement in a quality question, go with it, right? That is a tiebreaker. Quality is a series of comparisons in my mind. Yes or no, up or down, pass or fail. So quality has 2 terms, right? It's a series of comparisons. Here's one quick comparison for you. It's degree versus grade. The quality degree is the point to which the product fulfills the requirements or the scope, right? And so this is just answered yes or no. So grade, however, distinguishes functional use, and you'll pay more for grade, like a BMW versus a Chevy, right? And so before I close out a project, which is process 4.6, I will do quality control internally with my team first. Then, once it meets all what I think is quality according to the documents, I will go over to validate scope with the customer. Once they sign it off, then I'm ready to close project or phase. Now risk, right? Predictive or waterfall project management is risk-based, controlling it. And so I've expanded the iron triangle now to include risk management, which would include resource management. Procurements are a risk, and as well as the baselines and all the stakeholders. So these are helping me define all the individual risks, and I want to assess a sense of overall project risk. So 1, 2, or 3 risks by themselves might be small, but if they happened at the same time, would be a major impact. That's overall project risk. We'll talk more about that in risk management. Now, remember we talked about life cycles and then the developmental approach, which was predictive, hybrid, or agile. So the life cycle is a series of phases in the project. So project phases, these are logically related, right? And you're going to give them a name or a number, etc., right? So I might do strategy phase, a design phase, a test phase, a transition phase. And at the end of each phase, I want to do a phase gate. This is a go, no-go decision. Should I go on to the next phase? Have I accomplished my objectives? To give you a big picture of project management, so the strategy is part of the C-suite where I got the business documents from. Then I'm going to, at the C-suite is probably the PMO and the project management office. And under the PMO, it is going to manage portfolios, projects, and programs. A portfolio, which is largely centered on governance, will have projects, programs, and even operations. Okay, operations, which is different from a project. A program are related projects. So projects that build synergy or benefit from being together because they share risks or requirements. And a project itself is temporary and unique. It's temporary in its length. It will have a big beginning and an end date. It will end, and it's unique. It's unique and it's deliverable. Another great definition is that of a deliverable. It's a product, result, or capability to perform a service. Okay? Some other notes on the page to review, but it's very, very simple laid out. This is an example of the life cycles, right? So I might have the design phase in the dark blue in the middle, then the test phase and a transition phase. In each life cycle phase, I will do IPEC. And when I get to closing, I will do a phase gate. That's that go, no go check, and transition to the next phase where I will do IPEC and do a phase gate. And at the last phase, I will do IPEC again, initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and closing. And then instead of doing a phase gate, I will close project, which we already talked about. And these are types of developmental life cycles. I use the acronym HAPPY. We've already discussed many of them already. Constraints and assumptions always come up. Constraints limit your options, where assumptions, to me, are risks. Because look at the definition. They are real, true, or certain without proof or demonstration. And so I want to make sure they're a risk to me until I've proven that they're true. Like requirements, like risks, like quality standards, I am getting constraints and assumptions from my stakeholders. Okay. These are some sample project documents. So we have the project management plan, which once it's built, can't be changed except through integrated change control, which is process 4.6 on page 25 of the PMBOK guide. But these documents are things I use regularly and will update as a project manager. As I integrate all of these processes in initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and closing. So that's it. It's a very dynamic process. I showed you earlier the slide from 2020. This is the current slide that shows how the process groups integrate together. This is also an excellent slide. And throughout this process, you will want to balance and make trade-offs to the iron triangle.